Hey, welcome to another edition of Breaking Protocol from the Razzle Dazzle Show, our ongoing miniseries where we break down key updates and design questions straight from the development of Shade Protocol. These episodes are built around the game's community engagement series Devs Ask You, or DAUs, where Kendall and the team not only show us changing, but invite fans to shape the journey with them. Today we're looking at an enemy that isn't here to hurt your pride, it's here to hug you. Unfortunately, not the kind you want. This is the Hugger, a floating, stalking problem designed to test your defensive instincts, punish your panic, and reward your mastery of parrying, jumping, and timing. Be sure to follow us and Little Legendary on our socials and YouTube channel, and be sure to join the Shade Protocol Discord server to follow new DAUs, vote in polls, and share your voice directly with the dev team. Links to everything will be in the description down below, and with all that being said, it's Razzle Dazzle time! Where do you draw the line between engaging challenge and a controller throwing annoyance type of experience when it comes to what we're actually going to experience in the game when we get our hands on like the demo or like just the full game? You know, like how will that change the pace of Shape Protocol when we get to this area with battling these huggers?
So the tried and true answer to that is you have an enemy, let's say, you don't have a stick, then out of nowhere, here's a dog that comes to like chase you. You don't have a stick. So the dog wins every time and it's kind of, chases you and you just, it sucks. Eventually you find a stick, you throw the stick, dog chases the stick, you're free. So the tried and true kind of way of dealing with it is like there's a problem that you don't have the tool to solve, and you get the tool to solve it, and then the problem kind of becomes minimized. I think many games do that, and it works just really well. Like going against that, it's kind of like developer arrogance. Like there's no need to go against that. But there is a little bit of a little sauce that I like to throw on top, which is okay, but what if the enemy then says, okay, well, you're throwing the stick and I kind of know that, I want the stick, I'll go get the stick, but then I'm gonna come back, and now you don't have the stick, or I know how the stick works now. So there is a world where we don't evolve out of the enemies ever being a threat, but they're definitely simpler. So we go from an enemy being like, controller throwing oppressive, right, into figuring out how to deal with it relatively quickly, right, in one or two encounters. We're not talking about like you're just going to die 20 times to a normal enemy, but you will, some things you're going to have to learn. They're going to hurt you. Once you figure out how to deal with them, then now you gain one component of the solution, which is what is it that they do that you need to stop. In the case of the hugger, they go into the background. You can't hurt them there. So you need to figure out what to do with them. But you don't. But that doesn't mean anything. At this point, you still need the tools to hit them in the background. Let's say that was an option, right? So then let's say you play through the Lands of Tema and you get to that solution. Maybe the solution is not in Tema, right? Maybe you play the entire biome, as in like you won't play any biome in one go. But let's say you did a lot of the biome, and you have to deal with them, right? And eventually you leave and you go somewhere else. And then you get a tool over there that when you come back to do something else or to continue, going up the mountain kind of feeling, now you have a tool to deal with them. Great. So then that's how that should feel. It should never feel like the entire game, every time you see one of these, you just sigh and you just go like, this is going to eat like 4 minutes of my time. But it should never feel like enemies just become so trivial until much later in the game. Of course, I want people to, at the very end of the game, feel like a lot of areas of the game have become, like they've outgrown, and they're very powerful. Like that's part of the goal. But I also want enemies near the end of the game to say like, I don't care that you can cut space in half. I don't particularly care. Like I am still gonna smack you. And that's something that I think players are looking for. And I know here I might sound like I'm, pontificating, but I think like there is a need for more games to say it's not one or the other. either the player gets really, really strong and enemies don't, or the enemies get really, really strong and you don't. I think um there is a place where both can happen. And it is a war, right? So now we're in the situation where you have an enemy that is incredibly oppressive, and then a player that could be incredibly oppressive. And then it's about skill. Us as developers trying to put you, in a situation that is difficult to engage, but then you as a player getting incredibly creative. Um, so that's my goal. We'll try it. If it doesn't work out, that's part of us being humble as developers and kind of adjusting. But I think it's gonna work. It looks like it will, especially whenever enemies are together. I think players will have enough agency to do quite a lot. So I'm excited for it, for sure.
Within the world of Shade Protocol, within Emeria, what role or purpose do huggers have? Like, I'm not talking about in the present time with Zura going on this journey. I'm talking about before then, because as more information comes out through these DAUs, we learn that this world used to be vibrant. Well, it still is vibrant, but I mean, like, in a sense of even each enemy, even enemies like the snacklets, they have a bigger purpose than just being a popcorn enemy. So with the hugger in this case, what can you tell us about it?
Um, mm, you love to bait me into spoilers. I gotta be careful. Let me see.
That's
So
why
the
that's
I
why the
think
question is, what can you tell us?
okay, yeah, but that's like throwing a grenade into a room and
Right.
hoping it doesn't explode. Let me see. So what I can tell you maybe less about the hugger because it's not that there's not a lot to say, but every enemy, something that I really want, I hope that I could get across, is that at some point you'll figure out as a player that enemies have purpose, right? That they were not just there to like some of them don't even make sense how they fight you, right? Like what imagine an enemy. This is not an example with a hugger, right? But imagine like a snacklet that it's like carrying, it's carrying like this like canisters of like huge lithium batteries, and it's like taking it from one place to another, and this tiny little thing is carrying this huge thing trying to take it from one place to another. um if this thing is throwing that at you, like that's not what it's supposed to do. It's just it's either shaded or something happened, or you're against what the faction that they're very loyal to. So it's not like this is how they are, right? It's not like they just carry a bunch of like random lithium grenades and just throw them at you. So circumstance should play into how you look at these enemies, and many of them were not here, like they're not here because they want to fight you or want to kill you or nothing like that. I think in the Lands of Tema, there's a lot of there's a little bit more of like these enemies, and this is not literal. I'm just saying this thematically. They're kind of stuck in time. They're in this moment of time where they are in this eternal war, right? And you're coming into this like um, desolate war place, like they cannot escape from this state of war. So you're meeting a faction that is not like the snacklets that they're just like whimsical, loving creatures, and you're not dealing with like a militarized faction like the Saviors that they're incredibly organized and whatnot. You're meeting like these uh, robots, these beings that are in this place that they will defend like against all odds. It's a completely different vibe in terms of the character. Like if you were to grab one of these, like I don't know, one of these twins, and you were to like rip one of their arms off, they will fight you with the other arm until they die. Like this is not like they are in a different. They're hunting you down because you shouldn't be here. It's the best way I could explain it. So you're gonna get a different vibe from how these enemies work. You won't completely grasp immediately why they are the way they are, why they look the way they look, why a lot of the stuff. But they definitely look a lot more like war machines. They look more like they were made for something other than like the replicas, which the replicas are more human-like. They have tasks, jobs, and protocols and responsibilities, and they feel and they think and they cry and suffer. But these are more um, very, very different type of beings with a lot of similarities in terms of like, we'll figure out if they are, if they're just machines. We'll figure out if they're aware. We'll figure out if they suffer or not. We'll figure that out in the game. But what I can tell you for now is that they don't want you here, and they will stop at nothing. So until they're able to eradicate you and anyone that walks into this, ginormous mountain, which is, the lands of Tema. So as long as you are here, they will hunt you, and you will not survive them, or so they think.
Right. See, what I'm getting as a fan and as someone who's reading these and looking at these DAUs, I'm with that in mind, with thinking of like, yeah, they are supposed to be within this world. They have a role. They have their own tasks. They have their own ways to, go about the world, whether it's in the current time or in the past. For me, what I see this faction, this arc faction, because they're very like kind of bulky. They have giant hands, right? So like I'm thinking like builder, or like they lug and haul heavy stuff. Like this is in the frozen lands of Tema. Okay, there's a lot of snow. Okay, people, like these hands are meant to like shovel snow or something like that. So like I'm curious to see, since you mentioned that they're frozen in time, I'm curious to see if we will experience any of those tasks or protocols, whatever, of these machines that think that it's still in the past and they're just continuing doing the same old task over and over again. Like the Zelda's very on the mind right now because the latest Zelda game came out, but like the constructs in Tears of the Kingdom, like they've been doing the same menial tasks, like chopping down trees and like gathering materials since millennia ago. So that's kind of what I'm interested in seeing for Shade Protocol.
There will be some of that for sure. I think like these characters specifically for the Arc faction, their story is grander than that, but it is there. So you will get a sense of what their purpose is, and it will not be as obvious, but it will definitely grow on you, and it'll make sense. But for other factions, I think something like, for example, the Snacklets, that will be, I think, even more apparent. Like the Snacklets will kind of show their colors always. Like they're always kind of wearing their heart on their sleeves kind of way. Like whatever it is that they are bound to do, they will do, and you will see them do it. Like you will live through, you will get to enjoy them doing what they're doing. You will not you will not just see them be an enemy or an ally. You will see them live. We will figure out how to do it, right? But because we can't, of course, have like entire civilizations of like enemies hyper orchestrated. Like we maybe can if Kickstarter goes really well, but you get what I'm saying. It's not easy. But thematically, I think the Snacklets are probably one of those groups that you will get to see how they live. But there are many places and many factions that you will get to see how they live, and they all kind of have their own circumstances and their own themes and their own problems that are not as linear as like we're in some sort of war. That's like actually, and to be truly honest, is the least of the problems of the world. That the saviors are hunting down the humans. That's the least of the problems in terms of like for the rest of the for the rest of the factions, right? Because the rest of the factions are mechanical, right? Like have replica types and all these other beings are surviving in a world that is almost devoid of humanity. So even though many of them like miss humanity, the truth is that for them it's over, right? They've lost this war already, so they're living, and you get to see a lot of that, and you get to enjoy a world that which is something I'm very passionate about. I would like to be able to create a world where people can see this world and doesn't feel like like the world ended as in like cataclysmic, right? There wasn't sort of like post-apocalyptic chaos. There's going to be some of that, of course, but imagine a world that still functions, because what we left behind is still here. The beings we created are still here, and they're living this world like it was meant to be. So it's beautiful, but devoid of what makes it special, which is humanity. That is something that I'm deeply excited about, and it's difficult to think about because it's easy to fall into the mindset of like, oh, okay, just make it like post-apocalyptic and everything destroyed, and that's really doesn't make a lot of sense, right? I mean, humanity's gone, but that doesn't mean like the rest of the beings that live in this world just stopped living. So what does that world look like? So I think you'll get to see a lot more than I can give away in terms of how all these I don't want to say enemies, all these characters, because there's so many of them. All these characters actually live, and the struggles they go through, which some of them are more human than you would like to imagine, and some of them are completely new to a type of being that isn't like us. What would that look like is the core goal of the theme for these enemies.
And those questions are exactly what this mini-series Breaking Protocol is all about, talking about and trying to get the answer to them. This has been another episode of Breaking Protocol from the Razzle Dazzle Show. Want to help what Shade Protocol becomes? Join the Shade Protocol Discord server to follow new DAUs, vote in polls, and share your voice with the dev team directly. Go follow Shade Protocol on Kickstarter, and if you like this breakdown, check out our past spotlights and interviews with Kendall right here on the Razzle Dazzle Show. Remember, the future of Emeria is still being written.